All right, welcome into Around the Felt Sports. We're breaking down all things NFL Week 5 tonight. And hey, I'm your host, Reagan, here with a face that some of you may know, or wow, okay. My lamp fell over. But anyway, a face some of you may know or going to get to know, Dan Dazilla, who has been writing some articles for the Around the Felt pod, as well as our UFC pods. And, he's hopped on their pod a couple times. He's been on our pod talking specifically Bills before, but now he's going to be talking all things NFL tonight with us. So, Dan, what's up? I appreciate you joining.
Yes, and of course, man, I'm happy to be part of the method behind the madness. So let's get into it, dude. A lot happened. Let's talk about it.
For sure, for sure. All right, so let's get into some of the news. A lot's gone down since we last recorded on Monday, and Colin obviously couldn't join us tonight. Had some work conflicts, but that's okay. Dan is here to help out. So right now, some of the big injury news we've seen since Monday is Bucky Irving is dealing with a foot sprain. He was seen in a boot at practice today, but the team is considering him week to week. So it's not something to worry about long term, but, in your weekly fantasy leagues, if you're to miss him for a week or two, hopefully you could get White or Evans, on your waivers and, pick them up. All right. So some other injury news. We saw, well, actually, before I even get into some other injury news, Joe Flacco has been benched for Dylan Gabriel. So, something we kind of expected to happen at some point. A lot of people out there didn't know when it was going to happen, but at this point, I'm happy it has. I think Dylan Gabriel has the potential to be a really good quarterback in this league. Played a lot of big time football. I believe he has the record or close to the record for most passing touchdowns in college football. Was a beast at Oregon last year, so I'm excited to see what he can do with some of those weapons over there in Cleveland. Weird spot to have your first spot going all the way out to London for your first career start, but that's all right. All right, let's see what else we had because there was a couple different things like Tyreek. Obviously, we didn't really talk about it because it was on our recap, but Tyreek obviously blew out his foot, his leg. I mean, that was disgusting. He even has some like ACL damage, tore a bunch of ligaments. So he is out for the season. It was kind of expected. It was going to be bad. I mean, Dan, how bad did that Tyreek injury look?
That almost reminded me, if you remember, like the Nick Chubb injury a year or two ago, like just where you just saw it on the replay, and it was just one of the most gruesome things you've ever seen. Like that, I think that's as bad as it can get without actually having the leg amputated. It was just, I don't know if he was just in shock or, but he was literally smiling and just like waving at people being carted off, and his foot's just in completely the opposite direction. It was just something absolutely insane to see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate. And other unfortunate news, for those who probably picked up Trey Benson in your fantasy leagues after the James Conner news, he is now going to be on injured reserve for 4 games. So what I will say is, if Demercado, Emari Demercado or Michael Carter are on your waivers, pick them both up if possible, but at least pick up one of the two. I think it'll be pretty even split, but it's so hard to find running backs in fantasy football. So that's a must pick up. Also, Lamar Jackson, I mean, we talked about it. It sounds like he's going to at least miss, Sunday against the Texans with that hamstring injury. I mean, we'll get more into that matchup. The line reflects it as Houston is now a favorite. But yeah, I mean, that's really all we had for the injury news. I mean, we kind of got into the rest of the stuff the other day with some of the key injuries from the weekend, but
And
just
speaking of Lamar
unfortunate.
Jackson and the Ravens, dude, that like half that starting roster is out. I saw the injury report today. I mean, like it's insane. It almost reminds me of like the AFC 49ers. Just the list it's a grocery list. It's for a
Yeah.
team that was projected to be Super Bowl hopefuls. Just this is I don't think this has been the start that anybody expected for the Ravens.
Yeah, definitely not. No, definitely not. I mean, 1-3 and a very good chance to fall to 1-4 with that if Lamar isn't to play. Not ideal. All right, so let's move on to the questions. That's all we have for the injury news. And once again, I say this all the time. If you want to get questions featured on the podcast, we put a link out on our Instagram, or you could even DM us and just be like, use it for the pod. But we always put it out every Monday and Wednesday to submit questions. So first, we're going to go to Caleb, Mr. Around the Bases. He wants to know, from what you've seen so far, do you think oh, hold on. He goes, from what you've seen so far, do you think Fields is a long-term answer for the Jets at quarterback? He hasn't really been problematic. So, he Would you pick? Oh, okay. That's two different questions. Yeah. So, let me say that one more time. So, from what you've seen so far, do you think Fields is a long-term answer for the Jets at quarterback? He hasn't really been problematic. It's no. Right now, I'm going to say no. I don't think he's a long-term answer because he can't pass the ball consistently, and the Jets will never be able to be like a Super Bowl winning team. Well, I mean, that's just because of the Jets, but I don't think they could win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields as your quarterback. I just don't think he moves the needle. And unfortunately, like when you're down in games, like you're relying on a guy that's never been a great passer before to bring you back with his arm. So, no, I don't think so. Do I think there's a chance he's our quarterback next year? Yeah, I think there's a better chance he's our quarterback next year than that we're rolling out with a new, rookie quarterback in the draft. But that more so speaks volumes to how bad this quarterback class looks right now. Because it was talking about generational, and now it's like, who knows what this quarterback class is? Because a lot of these guys are struggling at the college level right now. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I was going to let you take that first, being that you're a Jets fan. But I think if there's one thing you don't want for a franchise that's been mediocre for so long, is another mediocre to average quarterback. I mean, I like Justin Fields. Like he had that touchdown run against the Dolphins. Like he's a great gadget-looking player, but he's a great gadget guy. But I don't know if he's necessarily a great quarterback. You don't want to keep riding like the quarterback carousel where you have Tyrod Taylor, you have Zach Wilson a couple years back, you have Justin Fields. I mean, as I'm sure you know better than most people, Reagan, it's going to take a real juggernaut to turn that franchise around. And I don't look at Justin Fields the way I look at Drake May or some of these other younger quarterbacks. I don't think he's bad, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to kind of turn the ship around.
Yeah, agreed. So we'll see what happens. But right now, hey, it's week 4. He's still got a lot of football left this season to prove himself. So his next question is, which quarterback would you pick to throw for 400 yards or more this week? So for me, I could see Justin Herbert doing it against the Commanders at home. I think that game's going to be shootout back and forth, over under set at 48.5. But Herbert's really been connecting with his weapons. We've seen Lad McConkey struggle a bit, but Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen have been on the same page with him. I mean, Quentin Johnston's year 3 breakout is amazing to see so far. So that's my pick. But Dan, who do you got?
Yeah. I mean, I could definitely roll with that as well. I'm definitely not going to say probably not Josh Allen, as much as I'm a huge Bills fan. I mean, that guy is basically my father at this point. But I think if I had to say, I think basically, given the state of like the 49ers and how banged up they are, I mean, it's basically like the Ravens. I can see Stafford doing it. I mean, Puka Nacua leads the league in yards right now, and I mean, like he's been getting at least 100 yards every single game. Nobody seems to be able to stop that guy. Stafford, we know he could sling the rock anywhere he wants to. I mean, and when you have a defense that's depleted on the other side, or a team, I'm sorry, that's depleted overall on the other side, although it's a divisional game and those get ugly, you never know how those are going to go. I could see him doing it, honestly, until somebody stops Nacua. I mean, I'm going to rock with Stafford.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate the Josh Allen thing. It's just with him, like at this point, honestly, it seems that they don't ever like. I don't know if we'll ever see a 400-yard Josh Allen passing game again, at least in the regular season. They just don't need him to be that guy during the regular season that's doing that.
That's what I mean. Like, as much as I'd love to say it's him, I mean, he's never, as of late, he hasn't really been a huge stats guy. I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks with more passing yards or whatever than him. I mean, it's not like he's dialed back to the point where he's Jalen Hurts, but he doesn't need to be Brett Favre and throw for 400. Be like Joe Burrow from last year, where he has to throw 500 yards a game. So
Yeah.
it is what
No.
it is.
But all right, he's got another one. What running back could you see getting 200 rushing yards this week? Ooh, that's a good one, man. Oh man, that is a really good one. I'm gonna go with and it's because I kind of like the matchup a lot in this one. But Colts Raiders, and maybe this is a homer pick because Jonathan Taylor's been so good, but I think he could totally get over 200 yards at home, on the ground, coming off of not the best week. I don't necessarily know if that was his fault, but the offense just kind of wasn't looking as good as they had looked through the first 3 weeks. So I think there's a good bounce back spot for him. This Raiders run defense isn't anything special. So yeah, I could see him go for 200 yards here.
Yeah. I mean, not to be boring and just agree with you, but yeah, I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor as well. I mean, he leads the league in rushing yards right now, and the guy right behind him, James Cook. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that because again, it is a divisional game, and unlike the Raiders, the Patriots are playing far better against the run. So I mean, James Cook has averaged the last 3 weeks, he's averaged over 100 yards every single game, but I do think he's going to run into more of a brick wall with the Patriots. And I mean, I'd be happy if he gets 100, but he's definitely not getting 200.
Yeah, and I could see some other guys I could see having big games, not getting to 200, but both Detroit running backs I think could go up for over 100. I think the only downside is, they're in a timeshare there. Otherwise, I would say, if it was just Gibbs, I could see him getting over 200. I mean, there's a lot of tough matchups for running backs this week. Like I would say Henry against the Texans, if they had Lamar, always has a chance, but without Lamar, I think it's going to be tough to run the ball.
More
So
like
yeah,
one-dimensional, yeah.
yeah, not a lot of matchups I love in that sense. So he wants to know what's an unpopular survivor pick you might be tempted to take this week. Yeah, so that means like always looking at underdogs here or spreads that are close. So yeah, I mean a team I could see that's not a heavy favorite here. I think honestly I really do like where was it? I kind of like Minnesota a lot against the Browns. With that being an international game, like they're 3.5-point favorites. They didn't look great against the Steelers last week. Like they almost came
Right.
back, but with Carson Wentz, but that doesn't make that offense too pretty. But the biggest reason I like it is they are adjusted to the time zone. Teams over the past couple of years have always like in their second game won and one-handedly. So I think there's a huge advantage being adjusted versus the Browns are going to get there on Friday, where Minnesota's been there since the last Friday. So that's a team I like a lot. Only 3.5-point favorites. Who else? I don't mind. Really don't mind the Jets against the Cowboys. I mean, I probably wouldn't risk it, but I think you could take them there. I think we
I
could
could
get our
say
first
it.
win.
I could say it. Yeah.
You know, it's tough because it's like a lot of. There's some few big spreads, and there's a lot of like the Ravens Texans. I'm staying away from where like if Lamar was playing, like that would be a pick for me that I'm
Yeah.
taking 100%. And also there's 4 teams on bye, so that doesn't help as well. I mean, Dan, are there any teams you really like that are in close games this week, or any underdogs that you're like really high on?
I would say, I mean, I was going to get into this a little bit later when we go over the games. I would not pick, as a Bills fan, I would not pick the Bills to cover the spread for this game because every time we're heavy favorites, I think we're like, what is it, 7.5-point favorites? Not as
Yeah,
big as we were the last couple games, but we've really, at least so far this season, played down to the competition with the exception of the Jets game. We were like double-digit favorites against Miami, and we were something crazy like 15.5-point favorites against New Orleans last week, and both times they failed to cover the spread. So anything that's like over 7 points, I'm not really going to trust it, especially in a divisional game. I would not pick the Bills to cover the spread for this game. I think
well,
it's
I
going
mean,
to
do you
be
think there's a
under
chance the
expected.
Bills can lose that game outright?
Yes, no, absolutely, for sure. I mean, like
You're
people, if you
saying
look at
stay
the
away from
final,
them completely on the money line, even too.
not the money. Like I do think the Bills will win, but I think it's going to be close. I mean, up until the end, when before Tua threw that pick, the Dolphins were on the way to tying that game, and up until midway through the fourth quarter in the New Orleans game, that game was neck and neck. I think it was like 19-21 at one point. So I mean, we've played these seemingly inferior teams tough, and the Patriots are the toughest team in the division. They're better than the Saints, and they're better than the Dolphins right now. So I mean, I think it's going to be a really close game down on the wire. The Patriots always play us tough.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I mean that definitely something to be noted on. If you're looking at the Bills, maybe look for other options this week. All right, Caleb, thank you. So let's move on to Sean. He wants to know, who do you think is the most surprising 3-1 team so far? So for context, our 3-1 teams currently are the Steelers, the Colts, the Jaguars, the Chargers, the Lions, the Bucs, the 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams. One that sticks out to me right away, the Colts. I'm very surprised with how good this offense looks so far and how good this defense looks so far. I did not expect them to be this good. And honestly, this is coming from a guy who was saying Daniel Jones could win comeback player of the year. I didn't expect him to look this good right away. And I didn't know Jonathan Taylor still had this like prime, 2021, 2022 Jonathan Taylor in him as well. So and the defense looks way better. So that's a team right away that I look at and super shocked by.
Yeah. I have two teams that stand out. Obviously, the Colts first. I mean, we've seen Daniel Jones. I mean, with however, 5, 6 years with the Giants, we never saw anything like this out of him, with the exception of maybe that year they won the wild card round against the Vikings.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna say the Jags, actually, especially with how they started off last year. Like, that was a team that was like a bottom feeder. They had to fire their head coach during the duration of the season. It was just a terrible year for them, especially coming after a year where they made the playoffs. I don't know if that was the year they beat the Chargers that a couple years ago, but and definitely to be 3-1, like already they were what, like 1-3 or 0-4 last year. They completely flip flopped
season.
Yeah, they completely flip flopped the script based on, at this point last year, about a quarter of the way through the season. So I'd say definitely I thought they'd be average, but I mean they're playing better than I expected. So I'm going to say Jacksonville.
All right. So his next question is, do you think the NFL should switch to college overtime rules? No, I actually don't. I like what the NFL has right now. Like, I think the college overtime rules, they're cool, but I think these offenses are too good where, they'll be going back and forth. And I mean, I guess it would be more cinema in the sense where you get to see the 2-point conversions happen more often. And, for fantasy football owners, I'm sure they would love it because you just have that many more opportunities for your players to score touchdowns. But no, I'm kind of cool with what they have. I mean, now that, both teams get an opportunity, I like how there's some strategy going into it where these teams are winning the toss and they're actually electing to kick the ball so that, if the first team goes down and scores a field goal, hey, we know we need a touchdown. Or, if they get nothing, then it's like, hey, you can just kick a field goal and win. So I like that, what they have right now. And I think it's always should have a chance if you're that second team to at least match. It shouldn't just be over after one score. So I'm a fan of it. What about you, Dan? You think they should switch, or you like how it is
Yeah,
now?
I don't feel super strongly about it either way. I mean, I think where it's currently situated, you have an ample opportunity to at least win the game. But at the same time, the fan in me, I want a definitive answer. I want that extra level of entertainment to it. And I mean, especially at the professional level, there's really shouldn't be a reason why you can't do it. I mean, I would lean more towards college overtime rules. I think that gives you a more definitive answer. But at the same time, I'm not really going to complain about it either way. I don't mind how they have it, but
Yeah. No, that's understandable. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the NFL's always tweaking stuff, so I wouldn't be shocked if there's some new overtime rule 5-10 years from now. But definitely interesting.
they'll keep recreate every time we lose to the Chiefs. They're going to make another overtime rule, so I'm sure we're going to get them. But
Yeah. Honestly, the way it's going, they might. All right, so let's move on. We have Chambers. Chambers, thank you for submitting. He wants to know, given Tyreek Hill's age and his injury, if you're targeting 2026 and beyond, do you think he'll still be valuable in Dynasty, or are you expecting him to fall off a cliff? I don't think he'll be valuable for Dynasty. I've had him in a couple leagues, and I already felt like his value wasn't great because of his age. But now putting this aspect in where he's a guy that relies on his speed so much, I really don't want much to do with him, but I also know it's not even worth trying to ship him away because you're not going to get his true potential. And it's he'll still give you some boom games, but it's he's probably going to be a guy you can't play, and you're just playing him in a pinch. I just don't think for what you'll get, which is probably going to be a third or a fourth that's worth it. I think at this point you just hold him, you sit on him. I mean, unless somebody's really willing to take a shot and give you a second or first round pick in Dynasty, I just don't even think it's worth it to entertain it. But Dan, what do you think? You mean you think Tyreek Hill's done, or where do you see his career going?
I think for the most part, just in terms of not even considering fantasy or anything else right now, but I think it's mostly over. I think he comes back for a year or two. I mean, he's on the wrong. He's 31, whatever he is. I think it's kind of going to look similar to OBJ a little bit. It's you're still. I think he's valuable in terms of his household name, but he's no longer going to be a super productive player. He might give you a few yards here and there, but it's almost It's almost like, how in MMA, Tony Ferguson was a guy that relied so much on his speed, like you said, Reagan, like speed, athleticism. And when that's no longer gone, they're just no longer the same person. You take a
Yeah.
guy that's already, aging, that's, relies so much on his physical gifts. And now, who knows if he can even come back to play after that. So, I mean, I think the signs point to no as of this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It's gonna be. He's gonna have a long way with this recovery, so we'll see. And also, like, we don't even know where his future is with Miami. Like, he could go to a way worse situation with a terrible quarterback or a young quarterback, and it's like, wow, like he's healthy now, but it doesn't matter because his quarterback situation's worse. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But his final question is 2 player props you love going into this weekend. So a ton of lines aren't out right now while we're recording this. So I'll give you some Thursday night lines, that I like. Mac Jones to have 250 plus passing yards. Love that at plus 214. If that's a little too rich for you, you could just take his normal line of 210. For him to have only 210 passing yards is minus 127. So that's something more you like. But I mean, the guy's through his 2 starts is averaging 281.5 passing yards a game. I think the Rams are going to get up big here. There's going to be a lot of garbage time in that second half and a lot of Mac Jones dinking dunks with that prevent defense. On the Rams side of things, I think there's going to be a little bit of adjustment on Nakua. So I think Adams could have a bigger game here. So I'm going to take Adams over 60 receiving yards. It's a plus 107. I mean, if that's a little too rich for you, you could still get minus 146 at 50. So like that a lot. Dan, is there anything for tomorrow you really like any players to have a big game? I mean, I know the 49ers are in shambles right now with who they're throwing out there, but
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing I would say, I haven't gone too much into like the props and stuff. I was mostly looking at some like film stuff as well. But I mean, I'm very much like a pattern guy, like as long as somebody keeps doing something, just roll with it until they prove they can't. So I mean, just whatever lines or whatever on Nakua, or I'm just gonna go with that because I mean the guy is just unstoppable right now. So, but
yeah,
I'll go with
his
I'll
line's at
pass the
100.
baton to you. Yeah.
Yeah, so Nakua is at plus 104 to score over 100 receiving yards. So if that's a little too rich for you, 90 is minus 139. So like that, I mean, and players to get in the end zone tomorrow, like Kyron at minus 200, I'm not touching that, but CMC at minus 120, like that's great value. You got to think they're going to get in. And
If
Adams at
somebody's gonna
minus
score, it's gonna be
105.
McCaffrey. So
Yeah, so at minus
yeah.
120, love that. I think he's going to be just ultra targeted. So whatever his receiving line is as well, like him for 60 receiving yards, I still love a lot
Yeah.
as well. But
Yeah.
I don't know. But we'll
If
see.
anybody's if anybody's ever seen that meme of like the Bugatti in the shed, that's like Christian McCaffrey on the 49ers right now. It's just he is the workhorse. Everybody's out.
Yeah. But what I'll say is too, like tune in, we'll have like the Felt 5 picks and all that stuff later in the week. So just make sure you're checking out our social media and stuff. We'll get more into all that. But all right, so that wraps up what we have for the questions. We're going to now shift our focus into the 14 games we have this week. Unfortunately, that's not terribly unfortunate. I mean, obviously these guys deserve weeks off, but with there being 2 bye weeks, we only have 14 games this week. I'll update you on the records between me and Colin at this point. I am now 33-29 on the spread. Oh, I didn't up. Yeah, I'm sorry. I am 34-30 on the spread. He is now, and I'm also 37-25-1 on the money line. Colin also went 1-1 on everything with Monday night. So he is now 30-34 on the spread, 38-25-1 on the money line. So, we were both wrong on the Jets, but both right on the Broncos. But let's see what we can do here. Dan's got a fresh slate coming in at 0-0, but we're going to get into the first matchup. Right now, the 49ers are traveling to take on the Rams. Both teams are 3-1 in this matchup. Spread is now actually, since we started recording, now ballooned up to 8.5 in terms of the line, because when I put these lines in before, it was before Purdy, Jennings, and Pearsall got ruled out. So now the Rams are now 8.5-point favorites. Over under is officially set right now at 45.5. But Dan, who are you taking in this matchup and why?
I'm going with the Rams. I mean, the only argument you could really make for the not if they were healthy, it'd be a little bit of a different story. If Brock Purdy was playing, which I believe he's been ruled out, it'd be a
Yeah,
little bit of a different story. And obviously, like I'm always cautious with division games because they're unpredictable. You really, it could be a shootout or it could be just a really like dink and dunk defensive type game. But there's just way too much in favor of the Rams and way too much against the 49ers with injuries. I really don't think the Rams are going to have too much of a problem here. They win by double digits by whatever they want.
Yeah, so I am going to take the Rams to win, but I do think the 49ers will cover in this one just because Kyle Shanahan historically has played Sean McVay tight. Like these matchups always go back and forth. I believe, I don't know who has and I'm going to try to check this out real quick. I don't know who has the all-time, record head-to-head, but I know, we're always in store for a masterclass between these two coaches. Let's see, Sean McVay versus Kyle Shanahan. Yeah, Shanahan has the advantage 10-6. So that's what I thought, that Kyle Shanahan historically has had more success. So I do think he will have a good game plan here to at least keep it close. Like, it's understandable. Like, there's only so much you can do with all these injuries on both sides of the ball. And actually, going back to your question earlier, Caleb, as well, with the survivor picks, like, I think the Rams are fair game here as well. I mean, that they're out of nowhere have now become an interesting pick here. I mean, it's really up to you if you want to burn them this early, but that's another team you could definitely take at this point that you probably weren't expecting when you looked at this weeks ago. But all right, let's move on. London game, 9:30. We got the Cleveland Browns, the Minnesota Vikings. Browns technically the home team in this matchup, but the over-under is set at 36.5. Vikings, 3.5-point favorites. I was kind of surprised by this line, Dan. I don't know about you, and it might be the Carson Wentz effects and the fact that they haven't really shown that they have a quarterback yet. But to me, I mean, even after like switching over to Dylan Gabriel, I mean, I guess Vegas views, Gabriel and Flacco on that same sentiment, but I think Gabriel will struggle a little bit. I mean, it's a tough draw to go overseas, so you're already going to be like jet lagged and not feeling 100%. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, you're starting your first game here, so I'm going with Minnesota here. I think Brian Flores is going to have a great scheme here. He's going to blitz a lot, and I think this is going to be low scoring. Obviously, I already talked about over under set at 36.5, so Vegas is not expecting a lot of points here, but I think it's just going to be too much with that defense, and I'm leaning with, Carson Wentz and Justin Jefferson versus like the Dylan Gabriel, Quinshawn Judkins Brown. So I'm just going with the better offense here because I think both defenses are very similar. But what do you got?
Yeah, I'm the same way, and I mean, like whenever that Browns game against the Packers, I just keep coming back to it because I mean, when you have such a phenomenal defense, all you're really looking for is just competent play out of the offense, to at least like jumpstart the engine a little bit. But yeah, I think based on what we saw at the Vikings last week and what we, it's a little bit up in the air with the Browns, starting a new quarterback and all. But I agree with you. I expect this to be more of like a low scoring defensive type of battle.
All right, so let's move on to the first 1:00 game, which we have 6 1:00 games this week, 4 games. So love that, giving us a nice little even dosage, not overdoing it. I think that's pretty good. You can kind of pay attention to all the games, so love that. But the first of 6 1:00 games, we got the Houston Texans traveling to take on the Baltimore Ravens. Over under 40.5. Texans 1.5-point favorites in this. I think that is reflecting Lamar Jackson not playing. I don't think they haven't officially ruled him out yet. But it does sound like he is going to miss. I don't care if he misses either way. Like, I'm still taking the Ravens. And actually, if he does end up playing, it really benefits it because, hey, you got the Ravens at home as underdogs. But I think this Texans offense is so bad. And a lot of people are going to be like, well, the Ravens defense is terrible. I don't think so. I just think the Ravens defense is average. And I think the big reason they've struggled so much is because they've had to go against the Chiefs, the Lions, the Bills. So it's like more so that these top tier offenses are exposing them. But like a bottom tier offense like the Texans, I think will struggle here or not, light the world on fire. But I'm taking John Harbaugh, the guy that's proven it time and time again. I just can't see this Ravens team falling to 1-4. And the line also is very confusing because it's like Roquan Smith's out and Badabike's out. Lamar Jackson's out. It's like they're still only 1.5-point underdogs. It's like I feel like everybody's going to be taking the Texans here, and I'm not falling for that trap. So give me the Ravens. But Dan, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know the Ravens team is basically like a morgue right now, but I think that the Ravens I know they've struggled mightily more than we expected, but I think they're still too prestigious of a team to go down 1-4, injuries or not. I just don't see it happening. I mean, the Texans really have not shown you anything that they pose a threat to anybody, really. And I know we're kind of comparing apples to oranges, obviously, two different teams. Lamar was starting in that game. But it's interesting, like Reagan, you brought up the teams that the Ravens have faced, the Lions, the Bills, the Chiefs, and the one team, their one victory was against the Browns, where they just completely like boat raced them. So if you have a similar team that's not really playing all that well in the Texans, I see it playing out somewhat similarly. Obviously, not a crazy score. Lamar Jackson's out, but I think they handled the Texans.
Yeah. No, so we're on the same page there. So let's move on. Giants traveling to take on the Saints. Saints 1.5-point favorites over under at 41.5. Who would have thought the 0-4 Saints would be favored in a game? But hey, guess what? They are. This game is going to be ugly. I went back and forth a lot. Ultimately, I gave the Saints the nod, being the home team. I think it's going to be tough for the Giants. Like, it's always tough to go down to New Orleans. Like, they play a lot better there. We've seen, in these Saints games as well, like their first two games at home, way tighter contests. The past 2 weeks, blown out by double digits. So it's pretty evident they're a team that benefits from playing at home. But I think for the Giants, like, you just lost Malik Neighbors. Like, Jackson Dartwell, he had a good game, got the win. It wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire. So I think it's going to be tough for him to get going when it's like, hey, you're throwing the balls to Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Theo Johnson, where it's like, at least on the Saints side of the ball, like, they got a healthy offense. Like, you've got your stars in Olave and Kamara playing. So that's kind of where I gave it the nod. Like, the defenses to me are both pretty similar. Like, I think for fantasy football, especially, like, both are in play here. I picked up the Giants in the league. So if either the Giants or the Saints are on waivers, like, go pick them up. It's a great matchup. I think this will be low scoring, but I'm giving the home team the slight nod.
Yeah. This one's tough because it's literally the battle of mid, right? You have teams that are really just not that great. But the thing is, the Giants are not a great team, but I think the Saints are a worse team. And you mentioned Reagan, like the Saints, that's kind of what it's got to be frustrating to be a New Orleans fan because you have weapons, you have Olave, you have Shaheed, you have Kamara. But like when you watch the Bills game, I mean, Spencer Rattler only had like 130 or something yards. Like he was missing wide open throws. Like I know he missed a good throw that probably would have gone for a touchdown. So I just don't trust the quarterback. The Saints, they've arguably looked like the worst team in the league through 4 weeks. And I'm going to go with the team that just got a statement win over the darlings of the AFC and the Chargers, a game that they won for the majority of the game without Malik Neighbors, and they still won against Justin Herbert, who's a far better quarterback than Spencer Rattler. So I'm going to go with I know Jackson Dart didn't have lofty stats or anything like that. Like what he had, like 150 yards and a touchdown or something like that.
Yeah, he had
But
a lot of his damage was on the ground.
Life. They seem to be. Yeah. He gives their offense life. They seem to play tough for him, and I just think that they've found a little bit of a spark, almost like that Tommy DeVito little insanity run. So I'm going to roll with the hot hand here. I'm going to go with the Giants after a statement win.
Hey, I'm not going to fault you for that. I was going back and forth. Like, that game is a massive coin flip for me. So let's move on to see the Denver Broncos, who are going to be traveling to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles 3.5-point favorites here, over under at 43.5. So this game is going to be fireworks. This is the game I'm most excited for on the 1 p.m. slate. I'm actually going with the Broncos to win here. I love that defense. I'm super excited for this, and it's going to be a good defensive battle. I mean, Vic Fangio, the former Broncos head coach, could get his revenge here, but also, on the Broncos side, great defense as well. So love that. And it's tough for me to pick against Philadelphia because they just haven't lost a ton recently, but I just think they're so due. I think Denver really is starting to unlock some stuff. Like, they looked really good against Cincinnati with that defense. Like, it's getting more and more healthy. I know there's a chance Greenlaw plays in this game, so that would be a massive add. Oh no, I'm sorry. No. He's definitely out. He hasn't been activated off the IR yet, but still, I really liked what I saw from offensively and defensively, and the Eagles are pretty banged up right now. And if Lane Johnson misses this game, which he's questionable right now, that is going to be massive for that offensive line. So I think that's why this line could even go down closer to even odds if he's to miss.
Mm-hmm.
He's that good. But Dan, who you got?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this is being played in Philly, right?
This one is in Philly. Yep.
Okay, gotcha. There's a lot of unknowns here. I think it's almost like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object in terms of like the defenses. Um, I think I say that it's a lot of unknowns because everybody knows that the Eagles are winning, but Jalen Hurts hasn't really had to do anything. I mean, the second half of the
Yeah.
last game, he was 0 for 8, literally did nothing in the whole entire second half of the game. But they still won. So I think this is a game where, especially like you mentioned with the injuries, Jalen's going to have to do something. And we don't really know what it's going to look like because we know Devontae Smith is frustrated. A.J. Brown is certainly frustrated. So we don't really know what that's going to look like. I think we're going to see a different style of offense, especially against such a watertight defense. So we're going to see what Jalen Hurts is really made of. Everybody's been kind of, throwing shade at him. So we'll see if he can put the cape on and prove that he's a top 10, top 5 quarterback, like a lot of people seem to think. I am going to take the Eagles, though. I just think they are the best team in the league until proven otherwise. And they almost remind me of the Chiefs last year. It's not going to look pretty. They're going to win by one score every single time. But until somebody beats them, I'm just going to rock with them. So,
Yeah, no, and it was hard for me to pick against them because I've been, wreaking the benefactor of just taking the Eagles every week, and it's been awesome. But I think they're due for a loss. So I'm gonna go next. Cowboys traveling to take on the Jets. Dallas 2.5-point road favorites. Over under set at 47.5. You could say these are the worst two defenses in football right now, or two of the worst defenses in football. Neither have looked great. I'm targeting as many options as I can get on both sides of the ball on offense and fantasy and stuff. I think Fields, Dak are both going to have big games here. Brees Hall, Javante, big games here. And then, Wilson and Pickens, big games here. So love that. All those guys are going to cook. I'm going with the Jets here. It's my homer pick, man. It's just like at a certain point, they're so due. I mean, it's a lot of self-inflicted wounds on both sides of the ball. And it's crazy because they're still in these games. Like, we looked terrible against the Bucs, and we're within one score of the end of the game from winning. And last on Monday night against the Dolphins looked terrible, and we're in one score of winning the game. So it's almost like if they actually put together some penalty less football and put some stuff together, don't turn over the ball, hey, maybe get a takeaway, which the Jets still are the only team without a takeaway through 4 weeks, which is insane to do that, especially with all the talent they have on the defensive side. So I just think it's a matter of they're due. They're going to put some stuff together, and hey, when they actually play smart football, they're going to get a lead and win a game.
yeah. I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one. I can't, I can't see the Jets winning. I think given the state of Dallas's defense, I see it kind of being a similar game to that Week 1 versus with the Jets versus the Steelers, right? Where it's a really competitive game, could have gone either way. But I think, I just need to see a little more promise out of the Jets. I think Dallas, for all the defensive faults, has shown that they could be a really potent offense. With George Pickens, Dak has been playing well for a good stretch of the season, and I think that there's just more firepower on one side than the other. But hey, I mean, like you said, Reagan, I mean, eventually a winless team is gonna pick up a win. Desperate teams are dangerous. So I mean, I'm not super gung ho on the Cowboys, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets win it too.
Well, I also think this is an all-time trap game here too. I think everybody in the world is going to be picking the Cowboys and being like, look how good they did against the Packers on Sunday Night Football. Like, they're figuring it out, and look how bad the Jets look. They don't have a takeaway yet. They got embarrassed by the 0-3 Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Well, the line's 2.5, so they're expecting a close game. I think it's a trap game where everybody's going to be taking Dallas. So that's also something that I always try to get on the opposite side of the trap. So we'll see. Normally it doesn't work out, but hey, we're trying to big brain it here. We're trying to big brain it. But let's move on. We got the Raiders traveling to take on the Colts. Colts 6.5-point favorites. Over under set at 47.5. I am going with the Colts to cover here. Or I'm sorry, I'm going with the Raiders to cover here, but the Colts to win. I think Vegas keeps it close. Their offense has struggled, but they have enough firepower offensively to keep it close. I think this game's definitely hitting the over. I think there's going to be a shootout back and forth. But 6.5 is a lot for me. So I'll take the Raiders to cover, the Colts to win. I think JT has a big game here, like I talked about earlier. Daniel Jones, another big game here, but I have enough faith in what I saw from Geno and like Genty and starting to get him unlocked that they can keep it relatively close, even if it's like, garbage time to get the backdoor cover. 6.5 to me is a lot for these two teams.
Yeah. I'm definitely taking the Colts. I mean, Daniel Jones has been playing great. The Colts have been playing great overall. I mean, that game might even go differently if Mitchell doesn't have a brain fart before he crosses the goal line over there in that last game. But I like Gino, but I think he's thrown what 7 interceptions so far this season, like something
Yeah, I'll
crazy
pull it
like
up.
that. So, I mean, even if the Colts do, even if they do have a mistake or two like that, I think the Raiders are just going to make more mistakes, and the Colts are overall just a better team. I think the smart bet is on Indianapolis.
Yeah, Gino has 6 passing touchdowns to 7 interceptions. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It kind of, for the Raiders, it kind of sucks because there's nobody else there. Like, do you want them to bench Geno Smith for Kenny Pickett? Probably not. So it's like unfortunate in that sense where there's no young guy where it's like, all right, like at a certain point, if Gino keeps turning it over, we know he's not the guy. Like, let's get the young buck in there. There's no young
Yeah.
buck in the wings right now. And like, even then,
Mhm.
like when Aiden O'Connell comes back, like, I don't think they're clamoring for him. They've seen that experience the past 2 years. They know what he is. So I don't know. Not ideal for the Raiders in that sense. Hopefully, Gino can pick it up. I could see him having a bounce back game. Maybe that'll be a prop this week. Gino to bounce back. That's a guy too. Like, maybe he could go for 400 yards, Caleb. I don't
Yeah.
know. Gino can slang that thing at times. He can slang that thing. But let's move on. We got the Miami Dolphins traveling to take on the Carolina Panthers. Dolphins 1.5 point road favorites in this one. Over under set at 44.5. I'm going with the Panthers here, man. They've been the most up and down team. I mean, from winning 30-0 against the Falcons to then losing 45-13 against the Patriots. Very, very strange that you could have that big of a turnover in a 2-week span. It's like, wow, you look like you're insane, to then, wow, you look like you're dog shit. Where the
Yeah.
Dolphins as well, I think they're the same tier, but I think the Panthers bounce back here. I like them at home. Another one where I think the offenses are going to do well, but I think the loss of Tyreek's going to be massive for this offense. I think he's a huge identity. So, they were able to get by on the Jets, but I don't think they're going to be able to just run the ball down the throats of the Panthers. Um, the Panthers' run defense has improved. Like Derek Brown is back. Um, I like Bryce Young a lot. Like I think he could have a good game here. I hope Chuba plays because I think he could have a good game. I mean, if not, Rico Dowdle, got to get him in your lineups. I think Ollie Gordon's sneaky as well here for the Dolphins. He seems to be getting more and more involved, but I'm going with the Panthers. I don't love it, but I am going to go with the Panthers here. But Dan, you on the other side, are you rocking with the Panthers?
I'm going with the Dolphins on this one. I mean, the
Okay.
Panthers have shown signs of life. I mean, the game they had against the Falcons, but I mean, based on, I always like to go with the most recent performance, right? Because that's the thing that's going to tell you the closest thing to who a team is, probably. And I mean, based on, the performance against the Pats, I just don't feel comfortable taking the Panthers here. And I'll also add that the Dolphins do see, I don't think they're a good team, but they do seem to be figuring it out a little bit more. Ever since that week 1 Indy game, the offense has at least looked confident. Like they kept it neck and neck with the Bills, a top 3 team in the league. They were really close against the Patriots until that clock at the end, and a couple days ago against the Jets, like they were figuring out, they were moving the ball, they looked far better. And the loss of Tyreek obviously hurts, but I think they still have Jalen Waddle, they still have Devon Achane, and that offense functions a lot through like the screen game and the short passing game. So I think especially with a pass catching back like Devon Achane, it won't be the same, but I don't think they lose as much of a beat as people are expecting.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I do have to give Miami their flowers. Like they have looked much improved every week since that Colts game. So maybe they're starting to figure some stuff out. It'll be tough without Tyreek, but it's a good matchup for them to figure some stuff out. The Panthers aren't this team where it's like, oh shit, we got to play the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah.
So definitely we'll have a chance to figure it out there. But let's move on to the 4 o'clock games. Like I said earlier, we have 4 of them this week. The first one being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to take on Seattle. Both teams 3-1. Seahawks are 3.5 point favorites. Over under at 44.5. I'm going with the Bucs in this one. I think they're the better team, and I like this matchup. Like both defenses have been playing pretty well, but even without Bucky Irving for the Bucs, that's okay. Or Mike Evans, like they got a Puka. Godwin's back. He looked good last week, and I think he'll have more and more reps. Baker's questionable, but he's a tough guy. He'll play. The offensive line's getting more and more healthy, but the main thing for me is I love the matchup in the sense that you can't run the ball in the Bucs. So they're going to take out Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet. So it came down to who do I trust more, Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold? I don't trust Sam Darnold in these weapons. I trust Baker Mayfield and his weapons way more, even with how good Seattle's defense has been. But I'm taking the Bucs to win. I actually think they could win by double digits. I mean, they're a team I think you could take in Survivor. I'm probably not burning them just because there's going to be a lot of cupcake matchups in the future, but I think they get the road win here. I really like the Bucs here. But Dan, who do you got?
I'm also taking Tampa on this one. And I mean, this is a tough one because Seattle's been playing fairly well, and I mean,
Yeah,
especially like Sam
3-game win
Darnold.
streak.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you look at last year, you don't know if it's a fluke with what he did with the Vikings, especially how that season ended in the playoffs. And he comes to Seattle and he's more or less doing the same thing. He's balling pretty well. But based on how pretty much every single Buccaneers game has looked this season, it's going to come down to the wire with like a one-score game, whether you're playing the defending champion Eagles or like a lesser team in the Jets. It seems to go more or less the same way. But and so it's going to hit crunch time. And it comes down to who do you trust more in the clutch? The guy that's been leading a game-winning drive literally every single game. Yeah, I'm going to take that guy. I trust Baker. I'm going to go with the Bucs.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we're on the same page there. So let's see how right we can be. All right, let's move on. The Tennessee Titans travel to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Over under in this matchup is 41.5. Cardinals 7.5-point favorites. I'm going with the Titans to cover, Cardinals to win. Cardinals really, to me, aren't a great team. I haven't liked what I've seen from them, but they're a much better team than the Titans. But that's why I think this matchup can be close. I mean, we've seen the Cardinals even let teams like the Panthers, where they were beating them good, come back and almost beat them, with that prevent defense. Last week against Seattle, like, they really didn't even deserve to be in that game. Like, it ended up being a 3-point loss, but the scoreboard does not reflect how bad Seattle beat them.
Yeah.
So, and prior to that, like, you beat the Saints. Like, I don't know. I just really haven't seen a ton with the Cardinals that makes me overly impressed. And not that I've seen a ton with the Titans either that makes me overly impressed either, but I just think ultimately 7.5 points is enough for them to cover with a backdoor, like, especially with the Cardinals. Like, I don't know, like, they just really haven't proven it. And like, now you lose Trey Benson as well. So, you're relying on Demercado and, Michael Carter as your running backs. Like, I think it's going to be hard now that you're not going to have a consistent run game and you're just putting more and more pressure on Kyler Murray. Like, yeah, Marv looked better against the Seahawks in that second half, but even that, like, that
He
whole
struggled a
connection's
lot in that
weird.
game. Up until that
Yeah.
touch, he was struggling a lot. Like they were not on the same
So,
page at all.
so that's
Yeah.
why, like, to me, I'm gonna have the Cardinals win, but the Titans to cover. And I mean, even I'm not like loving the Cardinals in Survivor either. Like, I think this has sneaky upset potential. But Dan, who do you got?
Yeah, I got to go with the Cardinals here. I think they're based on what I've seen, they're an average team, and the Titans are just a bad team. I mean, like Cam Ward said, I'm going to keep it a buck. They're ass right now. So I know that probably the Cardinals' injuries and the fact that the Titans are a desperate winless team, it might keep it a little closer. But I think I can't see the Cardinals losing this one, so I'm going to go with them.
Yeah. Now, do you have the Cardinals winning and covering, or just winning?
What's the line again? But I
It
can't
was
see my
7.5.
spreadsheet for some reason. Uh, I don't
It
think they
looks like you
covered.
had
I
the
don't think they
yeah,
covered
you
that
had the
one.
Titans covering, I see. So you think it's gonna be close
Yeah,
as well, but Cardinals got it. Okay.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so let's move on. Washington Commanders travel to take on the Chargers in this one. Commanders 2-2, Chargers 3-1. Expected to have Jaden Daniels back in this one. I think that's why the line is 2.5 in favor of the Chargers. Over under at 48.5. I mean, obviously this can change. We're recording this on a Wednesday night, but at this moment in time, it sounds like Daniels is fully good to go. Commanders fans probably happy, good to go 1-1 in that stretch without Daniels and have him for the long term. I am going to go with the Chargers here for the bounce back. I had a feeling it was going to be a classic letdown spot where they were looking ahead to this game. They're 3-1 or 3-0 coming in, traveling across country. I knew it was going to be tough and also a hard environment to play with Jackson Dart's homecoming game. But I love this matchup for them here. I think there's a great bounce back spot. I think Hampton gets going. I think Herbert has a good game here. I think the defense bounce backs. I just think they're going to be pissed off. I don't see them dropping two in a row. On the Commanders side of things, like, yeah, it's great you're getting Daniels back, but I don't know. I mean, Terry might not even play. Debo's questionable right now. Like, it's not great right now. I mean, and we've seen it with Jaden. Like, you're in any game as long as he's playing, but that Packers game really made me nervous watching how bad that offense looks. So I think there's some bigger issues here. I think if the Chargers front can get to them early, often, and always, it's going to be a tough game here, but I'm going with the Chargers.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Chargers have looked too good through the first 3 weeks, and I think they fell victim to a trap game. It happens. If it happens 2 weeks in a row, not that this is a trap game by any means, I think you start raising your concern a little bit. But and the Commanders, have shown that they're definitely beatable this year. I don't think Jaden Daniels is playing quite as well as he was last year. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers here. I don't think they repeat that same performance 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, fair. All right, let's move on to the final 4 o'clock game. The Detroit Lions travel to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Lions 10.5 point road favorites over under 49.5. Wow, that is a massive road favorite. I am going with the Lions to win and cover here. I mean, I wanted to take the Bengals to cover to give them respect, but this just seems like they can't do anything offensively or defensively. I mean, they've looked terrible the past 2 weeks, and that probably means they will cover and it's a trap, but it's hard for me to have any faith in this team. I mean, they looked so bad against the Vikings and they look so bad against the Broncos. And granted, those are two legit defenses, but the Lions have a pretty solid defense as well. And the Lions offense has been humming. So I just can't see Jake Browning in this offense being able to hang with that high powered Lions offense. Maybe a backdoor cover, but even that, I just can't give them that respect. So I think the Lions dominate here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, like the only argument you can make against the Lions not covering is it being like a trap game somehow. But everything you've seen is just pointing to the Bengals trending downward and the Lions trending upward. I mean, honestly, like based on what we've seen so far from the Bengals, I mean, honestly, last year or even this year, even like Joe Burrow deserves to be MVP because they cannot play at all without that guy. Browning was abysmal. That's one of the worst showings I've seen in a while. And I mean, I don't see the Bengals being able to beat some teams' practice squads, let alone, the
Yeah.
potential Super Bowl favorite in
I mean,
the
he can't
Detroit
get
Lions.
Jamar, but he's struggling to get Jamar and Higgins the ball. They have no run game. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm starting to think like if they lose this one, like do they look for alternative options at quarterback? I mean, if Browning has another terrible game, I mean, I think there's more than just
Yeah.
Browning. I mean, we saw Burrow struggling. The offensive line is terrible, so it's not like I'm not going
Yeah.
to sit here, but you can't really hide a terrible offensive line with a not good
Yeah.
quarterback, and we're seeing that right
Yeah.
now. So I think it's
And
going to get
and
really toxic really quickly there.
yeah, and that's the issue. I mean, everybody's always known that the offensive line has been, for the most part, terrible during Joe Burrow's tenure. But Joe Burrow, has been a good enough quarterback to mask some of those issues. And now that he's gone, you're kind of seeing it snowball, the offensive line, the quarterback situation. And yeah, I think they're going to have to do something for sure.
All right, let's move on to Sunday Night Football. I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say with this one, but the New England Patriots are traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills 7.5 point favorites over under 48.5. I'm going with the Patriots to cover, Bills to win. That's a lot of points in a divisional game. Patriots historically have played the Bills tough. I like the way the Patriots have looked recently too. I think they're much improved this year. It's clear cut. They're the number 2 team in this division and the only team that actually has a chance to give the Bills any sort of run or fits for that division, which I still think the Bills are going to run away with it. But I think this game's going to be close down the stretch. I like what I've seen from Drake May so far. I mean, my biggest kickback is they really don't have a consistent enough wide receiver room. But if Stephon Diggs can show up like he did last week, that'll put some of that worries away. I think there's going to be low scoring in this one. I think it's going to play more into the Bills' favor, where it's going to be like more of a run fest, running the clock on both sides of the ball. Like I think the Patriots want to do that as well, but I will take them to cover ultimately. But I do think the Bills win, even if it's a backdoor cover. Like I don't think the Bills are going to be too worried, but I think the Patriots are going to definitely put some people on notice. Like, hey, this team's back, or at least competent again.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I don't think the Bills cover, but I do think they win. Like you said, I mean, out of all the teams in the AFC East, the Patriots have always played the Bills the toughest. I mean, Tua doesn't beat Josh. The Jets, with the exception of that punt return touchdown where they won a couple of years ago with the Aaron Rodgers Achilles game, really haven't been much of a threat either. But the Patriots actually have, they have enough weapons, and they have Drake May is having he's been a very efficient, um, very adept quarterback, which I think is something a lot of I know Hassan, if you're watching, I'm sure he's pleased with how Drake May has developed this year. And something to note, the Bills defense is not good and they give up a lot of yards on the ground. Um, they've been better against the pass, but Ramondre Stevenson coming to town, unless he fumbles like 5 times a game, I think right now we're like 30th in defending the run. And once you let a team become two-dimensional like that, that allows Stephon Diggs to, open up his routes. That allows, Booty to open up his routes. So I mean, I think it's going to be a close game, and the Bills have shown that they will play down to inferior competition. So I think the only thing that I do like is that the Bills we do not lose the turnover battle, and we've had a takeaway in every single game. So you have a team that's prone to turning the ball over in the Patriots. Maybe that keeps it a little bit closer, but I mean, I think this one's tight. I think it kind of goes back and forth. Our defense is struggling right now.
I mean, hey, as long as Ramondre Stevenson's touching the ball, there's always a chance for a fumble. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that'll be a good one. I'm kind of happy that's a Sunday night football game. Like, I think it'll be a real coming out party for the Patriots. But the way it's going, that in looking in this division, this could be a real rivalry for a while. The way Drake Mays looked early on. I mean, he's got to do a lot more, improve himself more. But early indications show that this could be a really good rivalry in this division going forward. All right, let's move on to the final game, Monday Night Football. The 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs travel to Jacksonville to take on the 3-1 Jaguars. Chiefs, 3.5-point favorites. Over under 46.5. I am going with the Chiefs, man. They are back. They looked okay against the Giants, but got the win. But they looked amazing against the Ravens. And you saw right away, like, having Xavier Worthy back was massive for that offense. Defense looked great. And I know the Jaguars just beat the 49ers, but let's be real here. That is a very depleted 49ers team. I'm not going to sit here and, take it away from the Jaguars because they won, but I'm not going to sit here and act like they just beat some juggernaut. I think Jacksonville right now, like, I'm not fully sold on them either way. Like, I think the division's wide open because the Texans are not as good as most people thought. Not me. I didn't think the Texans were going to be good, but a lot of people did. But I think the Chiefs here are going to handle business. I think, with how inconsistent Lawrence has been this season, like, really not good, 58% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns to 4 picks. Like, they've been getting it down on the ground, but I think the Chiefs are able to take ETN out of the game and really make Trevor Lawrence beat him. I don't think he will. Like, he's struggled to connect with Brian Thomas Jr. and Travis Hunter. So that doesn't excite me. And on the Kansas City side, like, we saw Mahomes have like a vintage Mahomes game last week, and he is putting together quite the MVP season so far with the 7 touchdowns and 1 interception, but also getting it done as a runner. I mean, he's already got 130 rushing yards on the season and 2 touchdowns. I don't think he has any. Yeah, he has 11 touchdowns to 1 or 9 touchdowns to 1 turnover. So I think we'll get a bunch more here, and I think it's going to be another big worthy game. So, and guess what? Rice is back on the horizon soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. And I mean, what the Chiefs struggle so far this year, I always keep drawing the parallel to the 2021 Chiefs. This is the year that was the year they beat the Bills in the 13-second game. And during that year, they started off somewhat similarly. They started off 2-3, and everybody was down on them. They were like, "Oh, this is a Chiefs dynasty over," and then they eventually got it together. The Chiefs have been the most consistently good team in the AFC ever since Patrick Mahomes came into the league, and you're not going to keep them down for long. It was only a matter of time before Mahomes starts looking like Mahomes again, and sure enough, and now they're getting their weapons back. I think the tide's turned in their favor. It's, as much as I might hate to see it, dread it, run from it, Mahomes arrives just the same. So
yeah, no, this is one that could have some big, seeding implications down the line. I mean, both teams right now, are in their division hunts, but they could be wild card teams the ways it's going. Or if they both do win the divisions, like, this could be a big head-to-head game down the stretch where we're looking back in, week 17, week 18, and we're like, damn, that week 5 matchup between the Chiefs and Jaguars, like, that winner's really benefiting here because they have the head-to-head. So very, very interesting to me. I mean, unfortunately, like I said, 2 teams are on bye, so that's all we have. We only had 14 games this week. But that's all right. I love how we get a London game still. I like how we got an even balance of 6 1:00 games and 4 4:00 games. Like, NFL, good job with the schedule this week. Really good job. Dan, you got any final words before I try to wrap this up?
no, I think we covered most of it. So I'm just excited to watch some ball, and hopefully I start hitting on some of my parlays because I haven't been that lucky, if I'm being honest.
Oh, you got to take big dogs. He hit last week for 11 units. His
Yeah,
touchdown
yeah.
parlay.
I think I got to stop trusting my gut because it's steered me wrong almost every single time. So
Oh shit. So great. That's all right. Trust me, I've been there. But I appreciate you joining me tonight, filling in for Colin, bringing some insight, and, hopefully your Bills continue to have a good season. But Felters, if you've made it through to this point, thank you. Drop a like, drop a sub, or if you're on Spotify, give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate you all listening. Like I said earlier, if you want to submit questions, we drop the links on Mondays and Wednesdays, or you can DM us. We'd love to have your questions featured on the pod. And yeah, thank you for listening. And that wraps up another episode of Around the Felt Sports. Week 5, here we go.